Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Jean-Pierre Bekolo. I am a filmmaker from Cameroon. I guess the reason why I'm here is basically because we've been with David Bowie, who is here too, to kind of trying to see how, as a filmmaker, blockchain could actually help resolve some of the challenges we are facing, and also for people like us, like me, who's been making films, I would say, from a broad spectrum, going from what people would say independent cinema to documentary to science fiction. I made the first African science fiction film, and also to what some would call cinéma engagé, meaning political films. The whole idea being that we are dreaming to change the world. And what we face also is the challenge of fundings. You know, how do you fund films when the goal is not just to make money, but the goal is to change something about this world you don't like? So at some point, we developed what is now called Afrofuturism in cinema. Afrofuturism started with music decades ago in the US, but now Afrofuturism has become a kind of projection of Africa through cinema and maybe contemporary art. And the idea being that Africa has been most of the time a topic about the past, which is sometimes primitive, nostalgic, and then the present, that is always ugly, many wars and many diseases. So the idea of seeing how cinema could now, cinema and I could say Africa in that sense, could take advantage of blockchain technology and to see what step forward could be made. I made a film 3 years ago called The President, a film that was banned in Cameroon. Obviously, the film was made because, if I give you a little background, the president of Cameroon has been in power for 37 years. And obviously, me making a film about the president and the long-lasting regime was kind of to see if the film or cinema could help kick him out. Obviously, it requires to kind of redefine what cinema is, because what I did, I mixed a lot of reality and some speculative elements, which one would call fiction or science fiction, asking the what-if question. Okay. So what if the president would die or something? You know, and obviously it was very interesting to see the reaction of people of Cameroon who have been with this man for more than 3 decades, and how confusing it was to use the medium of cinema to kind of project the whole, let's say, future of the country that is based on one man into something they are not allowed to do, meaning thinking about a country without him as a president. So the fact that I was mixing reality, fiction, and speculation kind of made me question what cinema is and how we use it, if we use it properly, or if we just are stuck with the whole concept of mainstream cinema that is just a business. I would say, if I had to define cinema in that sense, I'll just take 2 definitions. One is from Jean-Luc Godard, which is a filmmaker from France, but who actually see cinema as radiology, mainly, trying to make a picture of our body, meaning our society. Another one I like is Christian Metz, who actually call it in French, le semble réel, something that looks like real, like reality. And the reason why I like those definitions, it's because it's almost like I'm looking for what we can call a kind of concrete utopia. So meaning that if our dreams, if cinema is the medium of our dreams, of our utopia, so how could we turn them into something tangible, which we hope technology and blockchain specifically can do. So based on that definition of cinema, which is challenging somehow, let's say the Hollywood's definition, just because the intention with mainstream cinema is to make money, we see in cinema a medium that could do more. So we came up with this idea of creating a, let's say, a writing program, a film writing program, where you write a film, but you also write reality, meaning we kind of see how is it possible to use the tools cinema gives us to create a kind of fictional world, and how we could go with those tools to kind of also write something that could be real. Obviously, again, with the help of technology such as blockchain, without taking out what we can call the aesthetic or the artistic dimension, which is how do we kind of treat the impossible? Because the world we live in is kind of, something we all feel very powerless, at least me, about changing it. So that's why I think cinema is a good place to be, because we are in a place where we can create our own world and make our own changes. So what is very important for me is actually the specific case of Cameroon. Let's say when I made the film The President, it was about changing Cameroon somehow, hoping that the film will make sure the president leaves power or something. So if I take the context of Cameroon, which is like a case study of a reality to change through cinema, okay, right now in Cameroon, we have a situation a little bit like here in Catalonia, where we have a secession movement. The Anglophone part, which is like 20% of the country, would like to be independent. But the history actually it's kind of complex, but still, Cameroon was a German colony. After World War I, that German colony was given to French and British by the Society of Nations, which is the UN. And so the two Cameroons had one British colonization and the other one French colonization. And after independence, the UN asked the two to kind of merge, and they create a federal state. And that federal state disappeared at some point, which is, I think, 20 years ago, because of this president, to become a unified state. And now the Anglophone are feeling that they got enrolled in a kind of what we can call French neo-colonialism, because Cameroon is actually mainly in the system, the structure and everything, a kind of former French colony. So the Anglophone they start asking to go back to federalism, which the government responded very brutally by sending the army. And so the extreme kind of secession movement also took on the weapons. So right now, there's a war going on. There are 3,000 people who died already, 500,000 people displaced, and the government refusing to negotiate, despite all the call for negotiation. So this case is important because there's a kind of utopia behind the idea of federalism before and now secession. So as a filmmaker, obviously, if you feel like, okay, obviously you can feel powerless, but you could also feel that maybe because we manage this medium of, I don't want to call futurism or science fiction or speculation, which is more exact term, there's a possibility to get involved and not wait for the situation to be over so that we can come later and just talk about that war, but in the past. I think cinema should that somehow find his role in some of these conflicts. And I hope that with technology like blockchain, we will be able to kind of do more than just be entertainment for some petit bourgeois. What I decided to do at some point was to, because there are many political prisoners because of this situation, I decided to kind of invite some of the political prisoners to kind of write something about the future. Could be science fiction, speculation. And the reason why I picked the political prisoners, because political prisoners are in prison first because they dare dream about something different than what is in place. And obviously what is in place in this specific case is the government that is running the place with whatever they've been criticizing and hoping to kind of improve the situation, not just for them, but for the people who are suffering from that situation. So they are dreamers, they are dreamers, and because in the context you're not allowed to dream, they end up in jail. And there are dreamers who also took action, who decide to do something about their dreams. And somehow I think it's important to kind of see what exactly they were dreaming about, and also to see how cinema could be a kind of third leg to kind of see how we can, in front of this very repressive regime, be able to kind of make possible that something different is possible. What I realize is that we are dealing, because of technology in general, we are now dealing with two spaces. Let's say the space that is real and the space that is fictional. And if I tell the story of Cameroon or even the Catalan story, there's a dimension of it that is documentary. If I talk about cinema genre, it's like documentary facts, chronology, we work on what happened. And there's another one that is speculative, where, and that's again falls into cinema, which is science fiction, where we can speculate about what is possible or what we can do. And if we make the two meet, meaning the science fiction part and the documentary part, obviously you can see that cinema is really at the very center of what can be done. So we all now double, because we have our real persona and we have our virtual persona. It could be a Facebook profile or whatever it is. But what we see also is that if it's a virtual, like let's say persona, we become almost material for stories, for fiction, for cinema somehow. And reality is there, we are all between that reality and fiction. And what is very clear is that the language you use in reality is not the same you use for fictional or virtual dimension. So the whole point is to see how to merge those two. How do you merge those two? And obviously it calls for a new language, a language where you can now speak to reality at the same time as you speak to fiction, which goes back to technology and clearly blockchain. And that new language obviously will use some of the cinema language tools. We can think about structuralism, or even what the Hollywood gurus actually are teaching us, what to make a good story. But this actually leads to something specific, which is reinventing the way we do cinema, and I see it more collaborative, like scientists actually, or even programmers with open source and things like this, actually work on developing, working together. I think screenplays, and specifically stories, when you're dealing with reality, like in the case of Cameroon, you have clearly a possibility to get more people than just a writer involved. So if now we have a new cinema practice, kind of new language, what very clear is that we are looking for, and this is what we are here for with technology. For these stories, we are going not just to tell, but for the stories we are going to become. So hopefully, that's something we will try to put in practice. And just to tell you that we have a workshop, I think in a few minutes, that will be about this attempt. Thank you very much.
Can you put this on? Yeah, to just make an announcement about the workshop and to give it some relevance to the blockchain technology as well. So it's not often that you have a film director in a conference about blockchain, and we've got the opportunity to start this collaborative script, which is going to be put on IP protection platform on the blockchain in the workshop. So if you join in the script, you could be one of the first co-authors of a film script. Alex Score, later on, presenting, will be showing the IP protection platform. We're also launching an open innovation platform for film production. That is another blockchain project. So not to leave now, but the workshop isn't starting in 5 minutes, but just before the lunch break. So please, if you're interested, come and join in. Thank you.